What's good, everybody? Today I want to reiterate the fact that the so-called black men are actually Aboriginals. And Aboriginal people, or who you would call Negroes today, are the original people everywhere. So it's kind of ridiculous for other people to try to tell us who we are and who we aren't when they absolutely came much later. Much later in time. But watch this.
Because God made a man named Adam 6,000 years ago. But today, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that man, Adam, was a white man. But before Adam was made, the black man was already here. And that's not easy, that's not hard to see. The black man always sees, the white man would even tell you that. Because he refers to Adam as the first one. He refers to the Adamites as those who came from that first one, and he refers to the pre-Adamites as those who were here before Adam. Right or wrong? Those people that were here before Adam. And he always refers to these people as Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. But you never find a white Aborigine. Rather, Aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are Aborigines. But you don't like to be called an Aborigine. You want to be called an American. Aborigine actually means from the beginning. It's two Latin words. Ab means from, origine meaning the beginning. And Aborigine is only the term applied to those dark-skinned people who have been on this earth since the beginning of the universe.
The Brazilian finds show that the New World was discovered tens of thousands of years earlier than previously believed. But who were these pioneers? A much earlier wave of Mongoloids, or another race altogether? Clues to the identity of the first Americans are emerging in rock shelters in the northeast and southeast of Brazil. Archaeologists there have recently unearthed human remains. Prehistoric skulls were found buried in layers of soil 9,000 to 12,000 years old. They are the oldest skulls in the Americas, and this is the oldest of them all. The skull of a young woman nicknamed Luthia by scientists. Can she tell us who the first Americans were? Walter Neves is a physical anthropologist at Sao Paulo University in Brazil. He has been using a standard and reliable archaeological measure, the shape of the skull, to find out what race she belonged to.
91.
He fully expected Luthia to be a Mongoloid, but then he fed the measurements into the computer.
When we started running the computer and seeing the results, it was amazing because we realized that the statistics, the quantitative analysis we were doing was not showing just people to be Mongoloid. In fact, the analysis was showing these people as anything except Mongoloid.
So who was Luthia? And where did she come from? To find out, the skull was taken to a hospital in Rio de Janeiro to begin the process of reconstructing her face. The first stage was to make a three-dimensional CAT scan of Luthia's skull in order to build a replica. The cast was then given to Richard Neve of the University of Manchester in England, one of the world's leading forensic artists, to recreate her features.
That to me is a Negroid face. That has all the features you associate with a Negroid face. The proportions of the face, it doesn't say anything about it being a Mongoloid.
Was this then the face of a first American? Her reconstruction is confirmed by measurements Walter Neves has taken of all his skulls.
The first reaction was not to believe in it. But as the results, repeated so many times, and the result is exactly the same thing. They are very similar to nowadays Aborigines and Africans, and no similarity at all with Mongoloids in Asia.
However, there is something that could settle this debate of where the Chinese come from once and for all. I'm meeting Professor Jin Li, one of China's leading geneticists. Recently, he led a project that set out to prove that the Chinese evolved independently from everyone else. from Homo erectus here in China. He singled out a male genetic marker which only appeared about 80,000 years ago in Africa. So any man who carries that marker must have recent African ancestors and can't be descended from the more ancient Asian Homo erectus. Jin took DNA from over 160 ethnic groups around East Asia. Over 12,000 samples. And so, what did you find?
We did not see even one single individual that could be considered as the descendant of the Homo erectus in China. Rather, everybody was a descendant of our ancestors from Africa.
The result couldn't have been any clearer. How did that make you feel, as a Chinese person?
After I saw the evidences that we generate in my laboratory, I think we should all be happy with that, because after all, modern humans from different part of the world are not so different from each other, and we are very close relatives.
Revealed for the first time, the oldest modern Briton. He lived 10,000 years ago, just when Britain was warming up after the last ice age. He was originally found in 1903 during a dig in Cheddar Gorge. Now, a replica lies in the spot where he was found. There have been attempts to reconstruct what he looked like before. Modern techniques in DNA analysis have given us new information about his features and his lifestyle.
You know, I've been studying the Cheddar Man skeleton for more than 40 years, so it's incredible now to have the DNA data that really shows us what this guy looked like. You know, the hair, the eyes, the face, that combination of blue eyes and dark skin, really very striking, something we wouldn't have imagined. And to also get from the DNA, you know, details of his biology, the fact that he couldn't digest milk as an adult. That's something that came really with the advent of farming, and 10,000 years ago people in Britain didn't have that.
But the CT scan has one more surprise for Alejandro: Shamai's ethnicity.
Well, they have just told me that Shamai had Nubian features, which means that their ruling family was probably Nubian, and that was unexpected.
Examining Shamai's anatomy closely, the thickness of his bones and the shape of his nasal cavity, the anthropologists think he was a black African, likely from neighbouring Nubia. A huge revelation that challenges the prevailing image of the Egyptian ruling class.
We always thought the ancient Egyptian elites were Mediterranean type, and in this sense, Shamai is representing the society of the frontier, in which different ethnic groups were mixed. At the end, it doesn't matter the color of your skin. Shamai was Egyptian.
So listen, it's ridiculous for any of us to argue with anybody that's not us about who we are and where we come from. We're not all from Africa. Matter of fact, the term African is a problem, because that is not really for the people of Africa. That is for the people who came to Africa, and then they want to impose that same term on us, while the people that's actually in Africa don't call themselves African when they talk to each other. And the point of this entire post is just to make it clear that everywhere, Asia, Africa, America, all of the islands in the Pacific Ocean, everywhere on this planet, we are the original and the first and foremost people. Okay, period. It don't matter who else you want to claim. Europe, it don't matter where you are on the planet. We are the original people, and we don't have to be arguing with people about this. When young folks that don't know this kind of information try to speak on the other folks' behalf, it makes them look goofy, and we need to stop letting them do it. So let's educate them. For the young folks and everybody else that don't know that so-called Negroes are the first people everywhere, are the original culture everywhere, don't confuse yourself. Don't disrespect us. Don't think we are one complexion. We are many complexions. Don't think that we're designated to one place. We are everywhere. We're the first people everywhere. So we don't have to argue with people who aren't us about who we are. Okay? And we need the young folks to understand that. And then everybody else can get it in due time. But just for y'all to know, there's no reason for us to be upset. We just don't need to play with them. We're going to always show up and show out. All right? Until next time, y'all.